Well, good evening and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It is a Talk Town special. And Steve's headline this week is that Terriers become the entertainers, but playoff dream dies. Well, it's still just there at the moment, Steve, but I see where you're coming from. Good evening, how are you?
Not bad, mate. Not bad, thanks. It's cosy in the fridge here as usual. So yeah, obviously, shame that doesn't look like we're going to be joined by the other two chaps. But yeah, good, mate. What about you?
Yeah, steady way, mate. I'm still a little bit deflated after the last couple of results. I will be completely honest with you. Good evening to Paul as well, who's already joining us this evening. So thank you very much for tuning in, Paul. And to everybody else that is tuning in, make sure you get your comments in and let us know how you go again. Paul says ref, as Rob does again. Well, Paul, we will get there. We've got the two games to talk about. We've also got about the departure of Jake Edwards to touch on. And we might get a bit of a chance to talk about the upcoming games for town. But we shall see. Steve, shall we just head straight into it, Cardiff?
Yep.
Yeah, let's head straight into that. Again,
I can tell. I can tell you're deflated, mate. I can tell. Right, you've not got the usual Kane energy to get into the show. I can tell.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It's been tough the last two home games to commentate on, and obviously yesterday as well, because personally, now I'm not sure if everyone's going to agree with me here, but I think the last two showings we've seen something completely different from what we've seen all year. It's completely different from what we've seen all year, and it gave me the hope to go. Actually, that hope might just be coming back. We might just have that. We might just have enough to get us into them playoffs. We might just have it. And then to concede like we have the last three games in a row, all similar ways, it is just a proper, it's not a knife in the back, it's a slit round the throat, and it's absolutely killed me. And I tweeted this yesterday, actually. I really feel for the players at the moment in general. I really feel for them because it has been an absolute roller coaster for them all season. You know, they come in, the expectations are up here, so should be. Okay, I'm happy with the expectations, set them high, try and reach them. We're doing okay. The manager became a little bit stubborn and then changed his formation away from home against a side which is now relegated and went to a 5 at the back, which was completely uncalled for. I don't think that was needed. It was again, you know, this is where we're seeing the ups and downs. After that, we see again more of the fans on the backs of the players and the coaching staff. We have the coach being booed at substitutions he makes. You know, how is this making the players feel as well? It must be horrendous for them. It really must. Then we have the change of manager. So again, we're talking about the emotions of what's going here. We've one of our top scorers leaves the club to go back to his parent club to then make a championship move. Not a problem. So that's another thing going out. The other, I think at the time, he was our second top scorer after Castledine left. Joe Taylor was sent out on loan, probably thinking, what's the aim here? We bring another manager in. We get the 2-manager bounce, which is great. We go against the adversity. We go against the 10 men. And then it goes back into that dip again. It goes back into that low where the fans are not happy with what we're seeing. So this is about the roller coaster of the everything was because they had the 2 games after the manager came in, Liam Manning. They have the bounce. The fans are back. The fans are cheering for them because they're seeing the performance, and then drops again. So they're like, what's going on? And then over the last, I would say 5 games, I've seen an improvement. I've seen an improvement from throughout the season. But the last 3, I think, has probably been some of the best performances that we've had. Now, don't get me wrong. I appreciate we've not won them games, but I'm a big believer you get performances Everything else happens afterwards. And for us to concede like we did against Wycombe, I think there is areas where that can be improved. I think the injury to Lee Nichols is a massive one, and I think Alnwick will be the first one to hold his hands up and say, "I'm sorry, I was a bit of a bull in the china shop when I came onto the park." He was all over his box. He didn't command it, and there was no control from the back line.
Yep.
Then we look at the Cardiff game, which we're going to touch on anyway. I thought the decision to, in fact, let me just go back to the Wycombe game as well. We're making changes, and there's one player left on the bench that I would have brought on, Joe Lowe. We
talked about last week.
Yeah, which we talked about last week. They were putting the ball into the area, which I didn't think Michael Duff could do that. Then we go to Cardiff, and Alnwick's in goal, and he's done well. We've not really had to do much. But as soon as Radulovic went off, it was attack and defend for an hour. Radulovic, that half an hour, is one of the best performances he's had. Okay, he scored goals in other games, but he held the ball up. He didn't lose a single thing. That was a massive outlet for Huddersfield. Now, for me, there's two options you could have gone for in that game, because Town were on top. I thought they were really on top. I thought they looked good. Sabine, a 19-year-old, at the moment is not good enough for League One playoff chasing team. He isn't strong enough. His touch is all over at the moment, but he's a boy playing a man's game. He needs more exposure to men's football to get there. But I understand the reasons of him coming on because he's a taller guy. If you bring on Alfie May, you're not going to get the hold-up play, but you can knock it into the corners, he'll chase, he'll wrap. You can bring on Dion Charles, he'll do the same. But the thing what you get with Alfie May is you get a bit more quality. What I did like, though, towards the back end of the game, Joe Lowe did come onto the field where we defend. So the management team, they'd seen what happened against Wycombe. They've gone, probably, we need Joe Lowe on. The goal's offside. Can it be stopped anyway? Forget about the referee. Forget about the fact that it was offside. Yes, it was. We know that. It's quite clear when you look at it back. Was it clear at the time for the referees? Apparently not, but it was. But it was a positive reaction to see Joe Lowe on and have that. But when you defend for an hour, something like that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, we move on to yesterday for me. Again, game management. Sabine starts again. It was just a case of the ball just kept coming back to Town. They were just having to defend. They were up against 10 players, had a 2-goal lead, and it slipped because they struggled with the outlet. Again, happy to see the change of bringing Joe Lowe on to help cover in the box, but this is going to happen when you defend for long periods of time. And I think what got me so deflated about it, I've gone on a bit of a rant here because we've got lots of comments coming in while I've been doing this, so I do apologise. But it's because I saw what I feel I should have seen all season in them players.
Yeah.
That fight, that spirit, positive pressing, shots, goals, and character and working for each other. There were a picture of, I say a picture on the TV of Marcus Harness at the end of the game yesterday, and he just looked absolutely distraught. And I just felt for him, and I felt for all the players because they have worked, and it has been tough for them. In fact, back to the Cardiff game, I thought Ryan Ledson as well was absolutely superb that game, and I thought the decision to bring him off was an interesting one too. Okay, I've had my rant, Steve. That's why I'm deflated. Shall we get on with talking about the Cardiff game? Let's have a couple of comments, and let's start talking about the Cardiff game. Dale says, the results might not be what we wanted, but we've been more than entertained than anyone at any time this season. I'm thinking it might mean anyone, Dale, maybe. We look good at the minute, pal. I agree. It's very deflating today, says Paul. I'm sort of Paul agreeing with me. You said it last week, Kane. After the Wycombe result, it's the hope that kills you, says Luke. It is, because we felt as if there were more hope. If we hadn't have conceded in the last 3 games, we would be sat in 6th position on 70 points. That's That's what hurts, isn't it? Terry and I thought if Manning isn't coming back, we need to know ASAP so we can get a new head coach and review the squad. So hopefully we can build a squad capable of going for it next season. Sabine lost yesterday, to be fair, but the team was quality. Says Paul Ledson, our best player against Cardiff. I would have to agree with that one, Paul. Okay, so Steve, let's talk about Cardiff then.
Yep.
It was a must-win, as all the games have been must-wins for Town. And I thought Huddersfield started really well and probably deserved their lead. I thought, as I've just mentioned, Radolovic was absolutely superb in that outlet for Huddersfield Town. And then Ryan Ledson popping up when he needs to pop up like he has done for the last few games.
Yeah, started superbly. Went out with a real intent. We weren't scared of Cardiff, who obviously at the time were sat in, well, they still are, I think, sat in second.
Yeah,
we weren't scared of them, which was good to see. We didn't sit back off them. We got in their faces. I thought the midfield was really good. I thought, as you said, Bojan was absolutely outstanding for half an hour, holding the ball up, bringing other people into play. It's kind of what we'd hoped for when we first signed him. And we have seen glimpses, haven't we? Over time, we've seen moments from him. But I think over the course of this season, particularly when he's got into a run of games, we're starting to see the type of centre forward that could be really effective in this league. And that, again, against a quality opposition, by the way, with the centre backs that they have, I don't think he got bullied at all. And Ryan Ledson, he has stepped up the last 3-4 games. He's shown why he should be the captain in this team. What I love is he's not just scored the goals with real quality. The sort of the finishers. Sometimes they're not easy finishers. And I think that showed in his quality. I love the passion afterwards. I don't. You mentioned it in your rant, which I'm sure we'll try and clip up. But I don't know why he's being brought off. I don't know if it's a fitness thing or whether he's got some knocks or whatever. But for me, we need to keep hold of this version of Ryan Ledson and not let him slip into the Ryan Ledson of November and December time.
I think, in all fairness, I saw Ledson go down at one point before he came off, and then he thought it was coming off, but it was Humphreys who came off, and then later on it did come off. But I just felt as if with the game that he was having, and I appreciate that he was probably lagging a little bit. I think it was mentioned actually after in the press conference that he was a little bit tired and he'd worked really hard, so he wanted to come off, but I think it could have been just a little bit different if he'd have stayed on. Because you've mentioned it, and I think a lot of our fans and viewers have mentioned it throughout the season that we lack a leader, and it's basically we're not seeing a leader that we've seen before in Jonathan Hogg, who is quite vocal, and you can see that he's quite vocal, but we're now seeing a leader of Ryan Ledson who's showing what he needs to do, and by being there, he is that leader that can lead by example and everyone has to follow. So just to still have him on the pitch, do you think it could have been a little bit different?
Yeah, because I think the control that he was having on the game as a whole was really effective. I don't feel like anybody in the Cardiff midfield particularly got hold of him. He kind of ran the show, which we haven't really seen from a midfielder since we've been back in League One in its entirety, really, if you think about it. So that's really good to see. When you say that he's not a talker, I have a slight disagreement there. I think he is. I think he does vocal. I think he's one of the more vocal people in the squad. I actually think Murray Wallace is as well. However, I think the thing for Ledson, and this has been really interesting for my arc of this season, in my opinion of him, is I started out where I was really critical of him. If you go back to the start of the season, I think I was fair in some of my assessment. Well, I think no, but I think I was fair in some of my assessment. However, I think it's more to do with how he's been deployed as a midfielder and what he's been asked to do. Because this version of Ryan Ledson, for me, has no comparison to the Ryan Ledson that we saw, like I said, at the start of the season. So I think it's more how he's been deployed and how he's been and how that's now changed under Steady and Martin Drury, which I find really interesting from a tactical point of view. But I even in his not good Ryan Ledson mode, let's call it, I still think he's a voice. I still think he has a voice. He's a Scouser. You know, they all not to offend Scousers, but they all chat, don't they? You know what I mean? You're very hard pressed to find a quiet Scouser, and
Yeah,
I think he is. You know, I think he is a voice. Does he go around telling people off publicly like Hoggy did? No.
that's what I'm trying to say, Steve. Yeah,
Yeah.
you see something different with Ryan. Of course, he's vocal, he's a captain, but
Yeah.
what we're used to seeing with Hogg, we don't see with Ryan because he's a different type of leader. Okay, you mentioned tactically there's a difference. Can you talk to me about that, please?
Yeah. I think he's been given license to be able to not just defend, but also move into attacking positions, and that's why we've seen him score goals in the last couple of weeks. You know, he's been able to hang it onto the edge of the area. He's obviously been given instructions when we've had a set piece to be in certain positions, which I find interesting. So he's not really being picked up as much. You know, people tend to pick up like Murray Wallace, Bolker, Bojan when he's on, but they haven't really been picking up Ledson, and that's why he's got a bit of joy from set pieces when we have, you know, whipped in a quality ball. But I think just overall, generally, in the last couple of weeks, you've seen a freer like Ryan Ledson. He's been able to dictate where he wants to go on the pitch and not in this sort of like box where if he goes outside of the box, he probably gets reprimanded by the manager.
Yeah, so there's been a bit of a difference. Okay, we're coming to the back end of the game of Cardiff. I mentioned earlier, it did just seem as if Town were defending for that hour after Radolovic went off. Is there anything different you would have done before we talk about the goal?
Well, this is my big problem. This is what we need to sort out next season. You know, if Bojan's injured, there isn't another option, is there? We need a big striker up there, you know, to bring off the bench or to interchange with Bojan. I think, you know, Alfie May isn't the right option, and he hasn't played well enough all season for me. I think I've been, you know, quite disappointed with Alfie, to be honest. I know he's been frustrated, and probably some of the frustrations that he's valid, but he's not the right man to bring on into that Bojan role when we were getting a lot of joy from it. So they had to bring Seabine on, and like you said, you know, he's a 19-year-old kid and he's learning the trade. He's not, he hasn't got the hours on the football pitch to paint a picture of what he needs to do with a ball when it's, you know, come up to him. He's not physically strong enough because he's only a lad. He's not grown into a physical bloke of a footballer yet. So yeah, we ended up defending, like I said, for 60 minutes. There's only so many headers that Murray Wallace can win, and it was just such a shame that we switch off at the wrong moment. You know, with seconds to go. I mean, why nobody's saying, you know, you get out to that man that crosses the ball. I don't know about you, Ken. I was more frustrated, not because it was offside. I was more frustrated because we didn't stop the ball coming into the box.
Yeah, obviously from my coaching days, it's how far along or before can you stop that happening? And I would totally agree. Now, just quickly, you mentioned you can't bring on Alfie May to do the Bojan Radolovic role, but you can bring on Alfie May to do a different role up there, and you can brand your football a little bit differently, no?
Yeah, you can, but I don't think we're clearly not a side that is good at changing our tactics in that way.
So you think
one
you think
thing
Town are So you think Town are better off with someone like Bojan Radlovic to hold the ball up at first and then bring up other people? Okay, that's fine. Okay, yeah, in terms of the goal, yeah, it probably could have been stopped. Now, what I think what's frustrating, and the frustrating for the most of the Town fans, is that Bali Mumba was ruled offside by the same linesman in the first half after a few minutes for being offside, and arguably probably wasn't, but unfortunately the Cardiff man who was offside, they didn't see that one, and I think it hurt a lot of people in the stadium, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, but you've got to get over that moment, haven't you? You know, you've got to have some mental resilience, and I thought we did show that, to be fair, which was good. You know, Bally in that move didn't do anything wrong. I didn't think overall he particularly had a great game, but in that moment, no, he was fine. He was onside. Yeah, those moments hurt us as fans, don't we? But unfortunately, Kane, as we all well know, we don't we don't control officials. If anybody watched today, this is a slight off piece, but if anybody today watched the Man City Arsenal game, right, and everybody in the stadium knows that Gabriel should have been sent off for a head movement on Ireland, right? We've got computers with every camera angle in the entire stadium, about 1 billion camera angles that all saw the same thing, and he still didn't get a red card. For me, there's no chance that a Division 1 game with officials that are twice as bad as the ones that we've just seen in the Man City Arsenal game who can't get a correct decision. You've no chance, have you?
No, absolutely not. And I always say you cannot blame the officials for the way you've played and performed. But
No.
it is just a frustrating thing. Okay, let's go for a few more comments, and then we'll talk about yesterday's game, and then we can talk about Jake Edwards as well. Paul's talking about stood toe to heat to toe with Cardiff was brilliant to see. Cardiff obviously now promoted, so a game again where we should be looking at beating a promoted side now, and unfortunately it just didn't quite happen for us. We've been banging on all season about the quality and entertainment being served up. We've certainly had that over the last 3 games now, not the results though, says Jed. I think Ledson is carrying an injury. I think there's a bit of an issue with his back as well. Paul, I think I might have heard that one. Where he can't play the full 90 minutes, but I agree, Ledson with the chains off looked so good. He looked good on Saturday when they scored that equaliser. It hurt. And Dale says, whoever's in charge next season, we need to play a system that suits the players and stick to it. Don't worry about the opposition. Let them worry about us, because at the moment, that has been our downfall. We need to make a decision on strikers. Do we want to play Mate and Taylor, or do we want Bojan and another big man? We need to properly pay our strikers, properly play the strikers to the strengths. The lack of goals from them has been big. Jed also says Kevin Nagel stated that we need to sign bigger forwards and younger players who are hungry. The pennies have finally dropped. I agree with Steve, says Harry. We struggle with shifting from a big man and then to a counter-attacking player like Taylor. Just 2 different styles. Okay, so playoffs still in and around there. After the Cardiff game, obviously 2 extra points would have been amazing, as it would have been against Wickham as well, but there's still that little bit of hope. We go into the game away at Bolton, which was always going to be a tough one, Steve. Now, I know you didn't exactly get to watch much of the game. I saw the majority of it.
No, I was busy frolicking around Pontefract Castle enjoying the sun, to be honest.
I thought you were supposed to be a proper fan.
Well, I am, but I already thought that the playoffs were dead anyway, to be honest, after the Cardiff game. I couldn't go through another 90 minutes of watching us, do all right and then ultimately fail. But that's what happened anyway, so I didn't miss much.
Well, it was more of the same, really, for the hour for against Cardiff, where Town were just defending. It was pretty much the same. Subine started up front, and it was just a case of he just wasn't holding the ball up, and that's all it was. It just kept coming back and coming back and coming back, and 1-0 down at half time. The goal was maybe a little bit soft, but it was going to happen at some point,
I've
especially in
seen
that
the
first
goals.
half. Yeah,
Yeah, I've
obviously, I
seen
know you're
the
listening.
I've seen the goals. The first one is soft,
Yeah,
really soft.
but the reason it's coming, Steve, is because Town didn't have the outlet, so there
No.
was pressure on them. There was pressure on, and Joe says I saw Stephen walking around Leeds Pontefract Castle in a Leeds shirt.
Oh yeah. Obviously,
Uh,
do yeah.
and it was just a factor of that was happening. So at halftime, something needed to change. Something needed to change, and they decided that they was going to press a little bit higher. We got the goal from, well, it was given to Kasumu, but I think it was more of an own goal. And then Ossie Tutu was red carded for a pull back inside the area, which I think baffled quite a lot of people at first. We didn't really see it, and then the red card was given. We get the penalty, it gets stuck away by Marcus Harness, buzzing for Marcus Harness because I think he's been playing really well over the last few games. He's had that bit of turn of pace, that bit of quality about him. He's looked pretty good. And then when David Kasumo gets his second, I'm not too sure I'm giving him the first one, but gets his second with a deflection, no doubt, but it's still a goal. 3-1 against 10 men. You're thinking, it's back on. It's back on. I mean, you didn't see the game. You were out in your Leeds shirt at Pontefract Castle.
I'm just clarifying. I wasn't in the Leeds yet. I was at Pontefract Castle. By the way, when Harness got the penalty, I just tucked into a scone and I accidentally knocked part of the jam onto the floor because I was that in shock that we'd actually got a penalty for a change.
5-second rule, or did you just leave it for
No.
pigeons?
No, I left it for the pigeons.
Oh, right, okay. So we're thinking, Steve, 3-1 up. It's back on. This is a great result. It's back on.
Yep.
And then we just defended again. we lacked the outlet again, which we had been anyway. And by the way, this is, I think it's a tough one, isn't it? Because Bobby Wells hasn't been around the squad for the last few weeks because he's not good enough.
He's poor for me.
Assuming he's not good enough to make the squad, yeah.
Yeah.
Dion Charles has been missing out with the squad here and there because of the likes of Bobby Wells before and now George Sabine. Alfie May isn't the target man. So we're stuck with a 19-year-old. Now that's nothing against him, but it makes it harder for Town to get out with their own half, doesn't it?
Well, yeah. By the way, you've missed Ryan Hardy, who's injured. Obviously, if Ryan Hardy wasn't injured, I think he would have been. He'd obviously
potentially. See, but he's played 3 games.
Yeah, but he'd be playing over George Sabine.
Yes, but he's not fit.
No, he's not. No.
I'm talking about fit players here.
Yeah, I agree. No, we haven't got an outlet. I mean, I don't want to be too harsh on the kid because he's obviously Steadies and Matt and Drury have wanted him to be in the squad. They know they've kind of watched him in the academy, so I don't think they would chuck him in there if they didn't think he could handle it. Obviously, he's done what he's done in the last Bolton and at Cardiff. Is he good enough at the moment? No. And that makes it hard. But as we've said earlier, and I think Harry agreed with me, we tried the Alfie May and Joe Taylor tactic of putting it into the corner, and it just don't work. We're not a team that can seemingly play that way. We haven't got I think when you play that way and you're asking Alfie May to do that sort of job, he then needs a lot of support by our midfield. Now, Kasumu and Harness, you could say, have got the energy to get up there, but there's no other people to get up there. Humphreys obviously can, but when he comes off, who comes on? McGuane. McGuane's not that sort of player. And obviously, Ledson's been, as we've just said, been lacking for fitness or got a knock. So, to me, it's pointless doing that because you're just giving Bolton the ball back. I mean, I know we were doing that anyway. So I can't really win the argument.
this is my point, Steve. They were doing that anyway. Okay, so rather than just knock it to a target man and it coming back to you at the halfway line, knock it past them, chase them down and get yourself up out of there, because after we went 3-1 up, it looked like we were the team with 10 men, and that shouldn't happen.
But we did that against Wickham. Giles came on against Wickham, and he looked lost as usual. He didn't chase people down.
Yeah, but that you're talking about that player there. I'm talking about if you bring on Alfie May. You know,
yeah, I know, I get that.
A bit different, you know. Sometimes, you know, you've got to be talking about the case of, okay, well, we are just defending here, but we're defending from inside his own half because we're trying to get it to the target man who isn't holding it. So why don't we just knock it a little bit further on, get someone to chase it, and then get ourselves out because we invited the pressure. We invited the pressure on, didn't we? And then 8 minutes at a time, and typically they score in the 10th minute, and we're all back to being deflated. We're all back to going, I can't believe what we've just seen.
The third goal, it's a good finish, but again, nobody gets out to him.
It can be stopped. You're right, yeah.
That's what frustrates me. It's a good finish, but nobody gets to him. Why ain't somebody going in the last minute, in the last 30 seconds, screaming, get to it? If I were on that pitch, I'd have screamed at whoever were closest. I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Ballymumber again, was it? Because
it was on that side, but Humphreys was the closest man.
Yeah.
Look, there was conversation. Murray Wallace wasn't happy with a lot of his players out there on the yesterday in terms of pressing, but just think sometimes things could have been a little bit different. And it was obviously, again, it's a shame that we had 8 minutes added time and then they scored the equaliser on the 10th minute of added time. But again, referees are referees, aren't they? You've got to perform yourselves. Let's go through some comments, and then I want to bring up just a couple of things that Martin Drury has said this week, and then we can talk about Jake Edwards as well. I'm trying to find the last comment as well. Paul says, Steve, your opinion, do you think that the rest robbed us of extra minutes? I probably agree.
I do agree with Kane that, you know, you can go mental at officials for wrong decisions, but I always try and analyse the goals of what could we have done, unless it's
absolutely
bad refereeing error. I always think the goals that we've conceded in the last couple of seconds, in every occasion, the last 3 games, we could have stopped.
Yeah, I agree with that one, Steve. The Bolton game wasn't for the purists, but one entertainment spectacle. We could have been 4-0 down at half-time, says Jed. I thought we would go full throttle after the third one, but reverted back to the norm, says Paul. John says, evening, lads. Evening, John. What I'd like to know is what has happened to Will Alves, a very talented midfielder. Simply nothing from the club. Well, if he's not performing in training, he's not going to get picked, John. I don't think it's...
Exactly, yeah.
And he's a winger, and unfortunately, Town aren't playing with wingers at the moment. Hardy was injured when we got him. It was a gamble that didn't pay off. Sabine needs an experienced player like May up top with him. Asking him to be a lone striker at 19 with no first-team football experience is a lot to ask, says Luke. A year ago, Sabine was playing on loan at Liverpool, so it's a massive jump to League One football, says Dale. And we've also got Wayne on. He says, first half, Bolton looked miles apart from us. The table didn't lie. The second half, much better, but still silly mistakes cost us. What was Balker thinking for the second goal? Hardy signed in, which was a red flag, but we took that risk. Seen enough to get him next season, would be willing to drop down to League One. He was useless, Charles. He doesn't fit in our squad. He's lazy, passive every time. And June says we're better off staying down. Football money for players, I would pay that silly money. So in terms of what Martin Drury has said this week, he's mentioned about how Lincoln and Cardiff has been recruiting and keeping the same kind of style of football for the last couple of seasons. And he also mentioned a lovely phrase, Terrier spirit. And he said that's what he's seen over the last few games. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the spirit has been there in the last 3 games. the more I think type of football that us as fans want to see, get it into the big man, let him hold it up and bring others into play. I like that sort of football. I think it's effective, particularly in this league. And look at the team that is probably going to win the title. What are they good at doing? Well, that's what they're best at doing. They've got a team where when we played them, they only have one player under 6 foot. They get it into the big man. They get people around him, and that's how they score goals. It's effective football. And it was an interesting debate that Hurricane that the teams that have failed this season, us, Luton, probably Peterborough, they all try and play this magical, nice-looking football, and it's not effective. Look at the teams that are being successful this season. Bradford, Stevenage, Lincoln. What do they all play? They don't play sparkling, sensational football. They play very, very good, hard-working, spirited, effective football that plays in a system, and they all know what they're doing in that system.
I think that's the key thing, though, there, isn't it? They all know what they're doing. And I think from the beginning of the season, I don't think many players have known what they're doing.
I think there was an idea in pre-season, and then Grant just decided to just move away from it. I hate this that, we were 6th under Grant, so we should have kept him because we'd have definitely finished 6th. No, we wouldn't. I agree with when Kevin Nagel said in the interview that we did with him, you could see that there was a downward turn. So why would we have kept with a manager where you could see there was a downward turn? I actually think it's a hard decision now to see it's interesting to see what Manning does. Obviously, he's got to choose what's best for him. Does he come back? And if he does come back, does Martin Drury and John Stead go, look, Gaffer, this is what we've done. You may have seen what we've done. I'm sure you have, because I'm sure that they talk anyway. This is the best way that we think we can get something out of this group of players. And then if Manning doesn't decide to come back, what do you do about Steady and Martin Drury? Do you let them have a crack? Do you not let them have a crack? Because if you get a new manager in, you've got to start all over again, haven't you?
That's the thing, isn't it? But, what I liked about what Martin said this week was about the Terrier spirit, and it just brought back memories. And I'm thinking back to the roots of Terrier spirit and the good days of Huddersfield Town when we were that kind of belief, and maybe that's something he's installed back into the players.
I've been quite impressed with him, to be honest. For a guy that I've never even heard of. We all knew about John Stead. We all know about him. But Martin Drury, I literally, the only thing I knew about the bloke was he was born here and he'd been involved in Bradford Park Avenue, Bradford City. So I've been quite impressed whenever I've heard him speak. I don't know about you, Ken.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, Steve, to be fair. Every time he's spoken, I felt it's been honest and clear. And I think that's a key part of being a football coach, is being clear and being honest. And I think both of them are getting something out of the players that everyone else has struggled to do so far. And I think that's really interesting because obviously Martin Drury and John Stead were part of Liam Manning's setup. So what's been different from Liam Manning leaving? But look, that we could go on all evening about that.
There is something different, though. There is something different in there.
There is,
whether it's on the training ground, or there's something happened that they've changed, or the way that they've worded things. I always think the best managers keep it really simple. I don't think football's a difficult game, and I think we've had some head coaches over the recent times that have tried to complicate the game. So, yeah, he's doing a good job. They're doing a good job. Obviously, it's just a shame that these 3 games have kind of killed off any sort of ambition that we could have had to get in there, because we know, don't we, Ken? If we'd have got into the playoffs, people wouldn't have liked to have played us. Not because we played well all season, just because it's the mystic of Huddersfield Town in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we would have been going in with some form as well. Then last 3 games, you win all 3 of them. That is some form going into the playoffs, by the way, because we guarantee you, You won them last 3 games. Would have won the next 2 as well. Okay. Paul says he's not heard that for a while as well, but he totally agrees. I'm assuming that's about the Terriers spirit. It's not the way to go back, to go playing from the back, trying to be like Barcelona, but I agree, Crane. The coach overcoached, in my opinion. Bring it back to the simple attacking football. He talked well, and to be fair, knows his stuff. It's going to be even harder next year, says Ross. I think Drury instead are doing fantastic. I only worry about the recruitment with them. I'd rather having Manning's experience for that. Well, Harry, I'll be honest with you. The coaches and managers don't do too much recruiting anymore. That's down to the recruitment team. They only say yes or no in terms of what they're after. And any kind of coach knows what kind of player they're after, and the recruitment team will go and find it for you. Wally signed for us as a fill-in, and arguably has been our best player. And defence is clearly where our weaknesses have been. Drury also said the squad has started to gel better over the last few weeks, so the questions need to be asked why it took so long. Dale, I think that's a fantastic point that you've just made there. Are the players playing for Steady and Drury, Downsy?
Yeah, I believe they are. Yeah. Well, if they weren't, you wouldn't have got the last 3 performances, would you? You wouldn't have got one against a very determined Wickham side under Michael Duff. You wouldn't have got the performance certainly against Cardiff, who have gone up as the second best team in the league, and you wouldn't have got played like we did against a sort of brutal Bolton side that have been there and done it, over the last couple of seasons trying to get in the playoffs. So for me, yeah, they are.
Thank you. 15 points we've dropped this season from conceding after the 85th minute. If we could manage games better, rather than sit back with 10 behind the ball this season, it could have looked so different, says Luke. Let's face it, guys. The games earlier, the Northamptons, Burtons, Mansfield games extra cost us in the playoffs.
Well, that's such a good comment, that, Paul. It's not the last 3 games that have done this, failing to get in the playoffs. It is the games against Northampton's, Burtons. You absolutely spot on. Couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah, I mean, you go to Northampton away and change your formation to a back 5. Interesting, but that was an old manager. With that in mind, Kane Harry says I'd happily keep them from next season. That's our conversation about recruitment. And Wayne says we've not looked a settled side for the majority of the season. No set style, starting 11, always chopping and changing. Jury speaks very well, but let's not forget Worthy did in his first spell. We've had to go for it while they've took the job. It would be the same from the start of the season. Michael says, evening, Kane and Stephen. Okay, also we've had some news this week that the CEO, Jake Edwards, has left the club by mutual agreement. What does that mean for Huddersfield Town? Do you think it's the right decision, Steve, as well?
I think it's a natural coming to the end for him. He's done what he was tasked to do, which is ultimately get the stadium for the club. I think that those processes now have started in terms of the stadium development, which he was obviously quite an integral part of, and sort of the helping Kevin Nagle settle into British football. Overall, really, generally, he's been. Jake Edwards has been in British football. He knows how British football works. He wasn't as incompetent, unfortunately, as the director of football that we had previously, in my opinion. And I think overall, you can say that Jake's probably done an half decent job off the pitch. Now, do I believe he's been part of a successful team? Obviously not. That's not happened. So, am I happy that the club has taken this decision? Yeah, I think like I said, it's a natural decision that the club's taken, he moves on, and we move on to who takes that role up next. It's obviously interesting that Dave Sykes has taken up that interim position. Whether the club want to fill that, with a permanent appointment, or whether DTS takes that up as his permanent role, will be interesting to see.
So you think he's done a good job off the field? And listeners, viewers, can you let me know if you think that as well? What makes you think he's done a good job off the field? I'm just asking. Obviously, I have my opinions, but I want to know why you think he's done a good job off the field.
He's done a good job in terms of getting the stadium over the line,
Okay.
Which is primarily, in my opinion, what he was brought in to do. I don't think he's had very much say on the football side of things. So personally, I'm not going to blame him for that, because it's been quite clear that the director of football, whether that's now or the previous one, particularly the previous one, they've had a major detrimental effect on the football side of things. I don't believe Jake Edwards was in charge of that.
No, but he'll have been in the interviews.
Well, yeah, they've been in the interviews, yeah, but I think, as far as does he get involved in football decisions, I'm not too clear on that. I don't think he would have. So, yeah, like I say, I think it's more off the field, and it's yet to see. By the way, I say he's done a good job getting the stadium for us. We're yet to see the revenue streams and all the things that we said that were going to be good for the club moving forward, getting the stadium. So that's yet to be seen, whether it's a good thing or not, isn't it?
Well, we're not going to see revenue until next year, are we? We're not going to see that on the accounts until next year of what it does mean. Now, I might offer a little bit of my opinion here. Obviously, it's just come out how much he was getting paid last year. Nearly $500,000.
I think that's a myth. Just to dispel that, the CEO wasn't a director, and in the accounts it says director.
Okay, well, I'll just show up then, shall I, Steve?
No. I mean,
all I would say is, I think it can be an easy job for a CEO when you've got a chairman like Huddersfield Towns who is willing to put money into a club. I think the aim for Mr. Nagel was to get the stadium and was to increase his revenue, put bars in there and make it more efficient and more sustainable. I think that's an easy job when you've got someone like Kevin in charge above you, because he's willing to put that money in. I think to be a CEO and do a good job is someone who is finding different ways to bring money without a lot there. Am I making sense there?
No, I think that's a fair comment. Yeah, you make a fair comment.
You've got Kevin, who a lot of town fans give Kevin stick, but he's at the other side of the world. It can't be here all the time. You don't expect him to be here all the time, but there's reasons why things haven't gone wrong. Haven't gone right, and there's things why we look at the stadium. Yes, we were going to get the stadium because that's what Kevin wanted to do, and that's brilliant. We're grateful of that as a football club, as fans, because it means more for us. But was Jake going to do that if Kevin didn't want to do that? How much of we're talking about what's happened negative here in the last season or two. Jake is the person who the chairman should be speaking to and trusting the most. But how much is that conversation is going back to Kevin every week?
No, that is the biggest question, 100%.
We don't know. Well, we can guess, we can assume, or whatever. But has there been open and honest conversations every week between them? Personally, I think that's where there could have been some downfall.
Yeah,
Because why is Kevin getting tweets all the time on X about stuff that ain't going right? If the tweets are coming, you should already know that these tweets are coming. That's all I think anyway. But it probably might do. I don't know. I just think that'd be really interesting to know. I do think though, whoever comes in as the new CEO, they've got a big task on their hands because it has to be right. I think Dave Ferrell-Sykes will do a great job while he's interim. DTS is a fantastic person. That one of the best things about Dave is that he's a fan of the club. He knows the club. He knows what the fans want. Jake didn't. Jake has spent the last few years in America, being
yeah, that's correct.
He was a CEO of the Conference League. Is it the second division over in America under the MLS, which Sacramento play in? So yeah, he knows a little bit about British football, but he's not been around the game recently. He doesn't know much about Huddersfield Town. Dave does, and I'm sure that Kevin will speak to DTS a lot and get a real feel for what the Huddersfield Town fans want, because I think that is key. I'm seeing comments coming in here. I saw it the other day with Sean Jarvis. He knows what Huddersfield Town is about, and I think that is really key. So my advice, and if Kevin is watching, is that make sure whoever comes in knows the club and knows the fans and what they want. Even if they're not from around here, whatever. They don't have to be local, but they have to know. They have to really take a keen interest of what Huddersfield Town need and want, not just fans, the club as well. Because how important is that, Steve?
Oh, massively important. I think, listen, we've talked about culture on the pitch, haven't we? And creating a good culture many times on this podcast. But also, what a CEO has to be in charge of is getting the culture right in the club's entirety or off the pitch as well, whether it's to do with chefs, whether it's to do with cleaners, whether it's to do with stadium ticket staff, office staff, the administration that runs behind the club. One thing that we got really right when in the season that we got promoted to the Premier League was everybody felt like they were in it together, whether you were a office staff, a kit room man, whatever, you felt like you were making a difference and having a positive effect on the football club. And what hasn't happened in the last couple of years, particularly, is there hasn't been a particularly fantastic culture probably set around the football club, off the pitch as well as on the pitch. And so hopefully, whoever gets that right, whether it's DTS, and like you say, he's a local, he's a fan, he's got the best what's the word? Sorry, the best interests at heart for the club. He doesn't want to damage the club's reputation. He wants to enhance it, if anything. So, yeah, I think he would do a great job in there. But I also think Sean Jarvis would as well. And he's not a local. But because he's been involved in the club before and he knows how passionate Town fans are and he watches games, he's done every bike ride for the foundation. He's still involved in the club from a fan point of view. He will be a fantastic ambassador to go in there as well. So yeah, I agree. It's got to be the right person, and they've got to set a fantastic working culture that makes people want to come to the work at the club, that want to give their all. The more local people we have in the football club, the better for me. That's just a better thing entirely.
Just want someone to embrace the club, don't you? Live and breathe Huddersfield Town. And then, that while DTS is running day-to-day things, we're going to get that.
But we've got one in the football side of things as well now with Chris Martin.
We do, yeah.
And I think that's going to be a great thing. He's going to get this entire summer now to go, right, you've talked about it before, how do I stamp my recruitment on this Huddersfield Town team? It's my team. I'm not working for Bolton anymore. I'm not working for the FA. That was, he probably cared about it, but it was just a job, wasn't it? He actually deeply cares for this football club. So he'll want to do the best job he can in the summer with the recruitment. And whoever goes into the CEO job will want to do the same. Like I said, DTS would be a good choice for that.
just to live and breathe Huddersfield Town. Get involved with the culture of what this football club is about, and you will be successful. Okay, a few more comments, and then we can talk about the upcoming game. Luke, I think he was talking about last few games there in terms of like the Burtons, the Northampton games. But I agree, last 3 games we could have been to play, so it's so frustrating. I think it's a great decision, says Paul. This is about the mutual agreement to part ways with Jake Edwards, and I bring back Jarvis, who knows the club. I don't think it will happen, but love Jarvis back. If Jarvis comes back, we all know who's going to be our manager next season. Says Luke. Here's a question, boys: who do we keep? Who do we move on? And will Taylor and Alfie May still be here? Look, Jed, I think that's a conversation we'll have at the end of the season. But for a quick one for you, I would still have both. Steve, would you still have both?
To give you a quick answer, I'd rather have Joe Taylor than Alfie May.
Okay, that's just a quick answer. Again, Jed will come back to the end of the season. Edwin's done well with the negotiations, buying full control of the stadium, commercial deals. We've had a hand in appointing the last 3 managers, says Michael. He was a corporate appointment. That was Nagel's left-hand man in the property side of things. On that side of things, you'd argue he's done his job. Normally a 3-year appointment in corporate world, says Jed. Steve, to you, when you spoke to Kevin Nagels, did you get the impression there were big changes ahead?
Yes. To give a short and precise answer, yes. I think there'll be a lot of changes over the summer, probably both in terms of not just on the playing side, but in probably club staff and stadium staff as a whole, for sure.
Like what?
Just infrastructure. He talked about the fact that he wants to change the infrastructure, make it probably more streamlined. Obviously, we've taken a lot of staff on board now because of the KSDL deal. Stadium, that business, as it were, has folded into, the Huddersfield Town business now. And we've taken a lot of staff on board. So he talked about, moving staff into different positions, probably streamlining it. There might be some people that leave. There might be other people that come into positions that haven't yet been created, that will be created in the summer, that might be appointed in, whether that's to do with, I don't know, corporate events, management, anything like that. So, yeah, we probably, Paul, will see quite a big turnover of, I would think, maybe staff in the summer. Obviously, we probably won't hear about all that because it's not something that most fans are interested in, unless you're somebody like that works for HDSA or something like that.
Okay. Getting a stadium deal over the line wasn't easy with Davey and Kirklees by Nagel's own admission. Absolutely would never have been easy with them two, Jed, by the way. Wayne says, good point, Kane, and that's why Sean Jarvis should be brought back. DTS knows what the fans want, what he's been part of the team from day one, so why change it? Edwards appoints Matt Cartwright, should have gone with him, says Michael. Getting the stadium deal over the line wasn't easy. Oh, we've already had that one, haven't we? Jed, did you put that on twice? You did. Michael says, yes, yeah. Sean Jarvis was a good appointment, but they'll probably appoint DTS. It says Michael. James, we're Huddersfield Town, not Ipswich Town, but cheers for your comment. Cheers for tuning in, much appreciated. I hope Markham's summer window is better than January's, because overall it was poor incomings and outgoings.
We like all fans here, by the way. Just
we do, yeah.
out, if you're a Wycombe Wanderers fan, come in. If you're a Charlton Athletic fan, we'll have you. Take anybody in.
Yeah, anyway. DTS and Jarvis, perfect combo, says Paul. Okay, next game. It's the last home game of the season. We are at home to Mansfield. Everyone start getting your predictions in, because it's nearly time to finish, because I am ready for bed, up early in the morning. Steve, it's not going to be an easy game. We are at home. Kind of bit of a, well, it's over now. There's still probably going to be a little bit of hope, depending what happens throughout the week and next weekend. But, should Town be looking at 3 points there against a well-structured Mansfield team?
Yeah, I think they're, from what memory serves, they're going to be pretty all right now. I don't think they're in that much trouble. They've pulled away from what I know in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, Nigel Clough, obviously experienced manager. Some were touting that we should go for Nigel Clough when Lee Grant was sacked. Like you've said, very structured team, has a certain way of playing, loves to be physical, have the physicality within his sides. But yeah, we should be picking up 3 points. You're going to say it still means something. Does it mean, you know what I mean? For me, it doesn't, but it's an end of season rubber. But do I want to see the boys on the beach? No, I'd like to hope that we can win the last two.
Yeah, we can hope so, because we've obviously got the last home game of the season, and then Town have already sold out their allocation for away at Wimbledon. It will be tough. It will be tough, but you never know, Steve. Hopes are still there, just ever so slightly. Just ever so slightly. The playoff hopes are still alive.
You must believe in miracles, my friend, because if we got in the playoffs from this position, that'd be one bloody miracle. Telling you.
And
well,
then
if we got in it, I think we'd win it.
Of course we would. On penalties.
Yeah,
on penalties.
Each game would be 0-0 when we just win penalty shootouts.
Oh yeah, the Huddersfield Town way. Okay. Right. Jed says another draw. Wayne says 3 apiece, 99th minute equaliser. I don't think the boys will put it all in. Yeah, to be fair. Mansfield are tough, but I do think Town will win 1-0. 2 apiece against Mansfield, says Michael. Luke said 3-1 Town. That's it, Luke. I love that one. Jed says, I don't know about you guys, but feel a bit deflated now. Jed, did you not see the beginning of the show? Del says, depends who's up front. If it's Sabine, then 2-1. Sorry, Sabine, then it's 2-1. If it's Bojan, 4-1. 90 minutes, 2-1. Town, 99 minutes. Desmond, 2-2. Says John, so he reckons we're going to draw. And also, Paul also says if we win it, if we got in, we win it. That's the playoffs. Another draw, says Dave. And then also, Dave, come on, give me something. I tell you what, Harry, I'm keeping yours for a minute. Steve, what's your prediction for the weekend?
A 2-1 Town win.
Oh, 2-1 Town win. Well, Harry, I rate this one the best. 7-0 to Town. Ledson hat trick. Well, that is the kind of positivity that I was needing at the end of this Sunday evening. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Thank you very much for your comments. You've been absolutely fantastic. Steve's headline this week on the West Yorkshire Football Show, the Talktown special, has been Terriers become the entertainers, but play off hope dream dies. Well, who knows, Steve? I hope you have a fabulous week, my friend. I hope you all do as well. And until next week, we shall see you.